All right, there we go. Do it again. There we go. Fantastic. All right. Parson Hicks in the house.
Yes.
Legend. Can I say legend?
I don't think so.
A myth?
Not yet. Myth might be more accurate.
We do not know each other, but we have interacted.
Yeah.
I feel like I helped you out once on LinkedIn with something.
Probably. That
And then
sounds
you're
about right.
always on there, and which
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Yeah.
And then you got an opinion, which I also
Yes.
very much appreciate.
Yes.
So I would like to know a little bit about you.
Sure.
How did you get into Rev Cycle?
my revenue cycle
Give me some
story,
background.
Totally by chance. Totally by chance. I started out as a teacher. I taught music. I've taught every age from age 4 to 19.
Fantastic.
And at some point, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's look at something else. It didn't make me enough money, Ben, to be honest.
That is
Yeah.
a true statement.
And there were a lot of outside influences that were kind of impacting what I did from the day to day. So it's
Because
not
you were
a-
working at like a school, like a public school.
at a public school in a state that had frozen their budget, and it'd been like 2 years since we gotten a raise. So the day that I looked at a sheet of paper and saw how much I would make in 30 years, I was like, this is not going to work.
This is not sustainable, they might say.
So I ended up going to graduate school. That's actually what brought me to New England. I went to Harvard Graduate School of Education.
Whoa.
And when I was
Big
there,
time.
no, when I was there, the career services director, she said that there are people in healthcare looking for someone with your skill set. And I never considered
You're
healthcare.
like, what do you mean?
Right, like what could I bring, to any organization in healthcare? And so after I graduated later that year, I was on LinkedIn. Like you said, that was actually the first thing she told me. The second thing she told me was get a LinkedIn profile, right? So this lady is like responsible for my whole career, I think.
Damn, all right. Yeah.
And Boston Children's Hospital had posted a role on LinkedIn. I looked at the description. I said, I've done all those things, just not in healthcare. And the rest is history. I applied in December. They took 6 months to decide they wanted
Shocker.
to me. But
Okay.
I really felt good about it. And that's kind of how I got into healthcare. But I was on the clinical side. I was not in revenue.
Wait, what was the role?
So I was a faculty development educator. Boston Children's Hospital is a Harvard teaching hospital, and the way that the physicians advance is that they are doing it through their teaching abilities, their publishing abilities. So how well are they teaching residents? Basically their scholarly work. And so really innovative critical care physician brought me in, and we went around the world teaching crisis resource management and debriefing. So I had an opportunity to go to South Africa, Austria. It was kind of funny because most of our friends are like, that doesn't sound like a real job. We think you're really with the CIA. But I was like, no, I promise you.
None of this is real.
Right.
Yeah.
We run simulations. It's great. But I also knew that I really liked healthcare. And I said, there's a ceiling here, right? Like, I'm not a physician. I'm not going back to school to get a PhD.
Yeah.
So what do I do?
If you're in the clinical side, it's like
If you're
there's
on the
nowhere else to
clinical
go.
side, there isn't. And that's when I made the switch over to a new EPMO, like Enterprise Project Management Office. And they were going through, everybody knows about transformations, right? Like every organization does it. And they were focusing on patient satisfaction, physician engagement, and revenue cycle. And back then, nobody at Boston Children's Hospital was even saying anything. That was a new term for us, revenue cycle. And I didn't get assigned revenue cycle then. I got assigned physician engagement because I had just been like in operating rooms, working on simulations, doing things. I was called the surgeon whisperer, right?
Yeah.
So they were like, that's what you're going to do. But then shortly after, a practice manager joined and they said, oh, well, Parson, we're just going to give you rev cycle. Because she was a practice manager. And I was like, rev cycle, what is that? I know you're supposed to have a copay. I know you're supposed to have insurance.
We're just
but
going to give you
that's it.
rev cycle is the phrase?
And
Like,
they gave me
okay.
rev cycle when Boston Children's Hospital was consolidating 17 departments onto one instance of PB, Epic. So I was learning revenue cycle jargon. I was learning Epic jargon. I'll never forget one day I was sitting in the room and I was like, I made a mistake. But then like after 3 months, things started clicking and I was like, I really like this. I want to do this. And that's
crazy.
that's my story.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah.
So the crazy, they're just like, oh, you should take rev cycle.
Right.
You're
So
like, I don't even know what that
happenstance.
is.
Right. It's like, what is that? Yeah. $30 copay when you go to your doctor. Okay. That's really what I thought.
Yeah, you're like, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, shit, maybe I made a mistake.
I was staying up until like 11 o'clock at night.
Can
Like
you
I would be in meetings writing down, what is AR, right? And then like going back and Googling it. I mean, I really had to rely heavily on subject matter experts. And the one thing I'm grateful for is I've always been a highly structured and organized individual. So even though I knew nothing about revenue cycle, I was a strong project manager and I knew how to advance things
so you could
forward.
I'm just advancing things, the ball.
Yeah.
Here's all these plans.
Yeah. And I think also because I had a background in teaching, I had the capacity to remember a lot of information. And so sitting in different rooms, I was able to make the connection between the things. And I was like, this is fascinating. It's almost a little bit like teaching where you have your things that you know you have to do every day, but then there's like curveballs and new things that can come up and you have to respond in the moment. So at that moment, right, like I'm a project manager, never managed anyone from an operations standpoint. And I said, if this is what I'm going to do, I want the top job. Let's do it. And that was, 14 years ago almost?
Okay, so that's crazy. So you're at Boston Children's. How long were you there for then?
I was at Boston Children's for 4 years. Yeah.
And then where did you go from there? What were you?
I went to Steward Healthcare, but it was like,
I'm so
it was
sorry.
okay.
I'm so sorry.
Like, no, we were crushing it.
You
when
can't
I
even
was
say it,
there.
right? You're like, can't say it. The system that shall not be named.
Right, that shall remain nameless. You know what's funny about that though? So when I went there, Steward was only in the Northeast. They were in the red.
It was just the Boston one.
It was just the Boston market. There were 8 hospitals because I was responsible for 8 hospitals. And they were in the red. By the time, I was there for a while, we got in the black. I would even say that that was a big part of the reason why they were able to acquire other healthcare systems. But what I learned there, and there was a particular leader, very strong guy. He came out of Deloitte. I think he works for Athena Health today. That's where I really learned revenue cycle. Because when you're in a for-profit setting, you don't have time to just be losing money every year like some of these nonprofit settings. I knew how many Medicaid applications had to convert to actual Medicaid enrollment.
Yes.
I knew how much cash each of my hospitals had to collect every week in order for them to meet budget, for me to say to your CFO, oh, you're good. You don't have to lay anyone off.
You can just payroll this week.
Right. And that kind of like intensity, I feel like was the best throw her in the fire in order to really learn revenue cycle. So, rest
like dog years.
Steward Healthcare, but I really kind of cut my teeth there. So I'll always be grateful for that experience. And some super smart people in the CBO.
Yeah. I mean, I would equate it to my time at Accretive because I was there at the very beginning.
Accretive.
Very beginning.
Heard about it.
2006.
We probably know some of the same people. We'll have to talk about that later.
Oh, for sure. Yes. But it was like dog years.
Yeah.
Because it was moving so fast. And it was just, we were trying everything. Try everything.
Yeah.
If it fails, do the next thing. Like you got to get results. And say what I don't know to say like all the tactics, but I learned so much in such a short amount of time.
So much. And I mean, even to this day, some of the lessons from that time period, I still take with me and I'll always be grateful for that experience.
So how long were you at Steward and then
Well, I wasn't at Steward for as long as I wanted to be. So again,
such is life.
we were really successful, right? Like I said, before I got there, people hadn't seen pay raises in years and bonuses, forget about it, right? But we turned it around, completely turned it around. And so around that time, Steward, because Massachusetts is a very heavily regulated state, decided they didn't want to function there anymore. So they were moving to Texas and they wanted all their leaders to move to Texas. But I didn't have a good feeling about moving to Texas because I said, if I'm going to pick up my life and I don't even know if I'm over here crushing it, but that doesn't seem to matter. I was like, I'm not, changing my life.
Because you were in Boston at the time.
I was in Boston, still in the New England.
But you had been since grad school, right?
Yeah. So I practically, don't tell my family, I'm from North Carolina, but I'm practically a Northeasterner, right, at this point. I'm hot when I go home. Yeah. But I didn't want to move because I just didn't have confidence in the company. You know how you can just feel something is not
100%,
right?
Yeah.
And I felt bad because someone I know who did move, she gets laid off within a year. It was a disaster. But so I was officially there between 2016 and 2018. And when I left, I was the director of revenue cycle operations for their, they called it Central Region. So they had acquired some hospitals from Community Health System on a bunch of different systems. They wanted to move them all to Meditech. I got called in 3 months before hey, we're not extending your agreement anymore. And the CRO said, Parson, I need you to go and fix, Ohio. We're losing millions every month. And I was like, oh, well, when I wanted to go for this role in December, you chose someone else. Who's doing that? Like, what's he doing? And I did. I went in there 3 months. We were ready to go. We trained over 300 people. And then I was out, and I took some time off after that. And to this day, that CRO is still like, I can't believe you just left and you didn't have another job. I said, some things are more than money. They're bigger than money. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Some of it's principle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or I always say that, like, the flip side is, like, there's always a cost.
Oh, yeah.
So if someone's offering you, like, some, like, oh, this is this crazy salary, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm like, there's always a cost.
Well, see, but I have been offered so much money, right? So you go back in the story where I'm like, I'm not making enough money. And then I realized, you know what? There is more than just money.
Yeah.
And so even in some of those examples where people have thrown money at me, I had one CFO say, yeah, I gave you that amount because when other people come to you, I want you to remember so that, you don't entertain their conversation. But I'm not driven by money. It's nice. These jobs are hard, so trust.
Hard.
I don't even entertain below a certain dollar. And everyone who does this work should really think about that when they're, negotiating. But there are things that are bigger than money. And these were a couple of those examples. I said, I'll figure it out. I'm scrappy like that.
Props to you. That's awesome. Seriously. You're like, mic drop. I just dropped the mic. She's like, so what are you doing today then? Like,
so today I actually have my own business.
Okay.
It's Watson
on your
and
own
Sturdivant,
shingle.
On my own shingle. And
Fantastic.
a big part of what I do, when people ask me, I say, I pretty much do what I was doing before, but I just do it on my own terms.
Oh, fantastic.
And I mean, it feels great, right? And the thing is, like, I love this work. Back when I was sitting in that room 3 months before and I said, I made a mistake, right? And then I was like, oh, no, this is great. I still love that work. But I think sometimes when you are in a health system and you are the person and you are there for 2-3 years, it's like, how many more times can I tell someone that you have to run RTE? Like, there's just some stuff that I'm like, I'm better than this. And I just think that, like, for my personality type and my style, I come in, if you got something broken, you need it fixed, or you want to build something new, like, I'm your person. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to you're going to start to see changes within 30 days, within 90 days. And you're going to be like, I didn't realize this was possible. Like, that's what I do. And I try to move the needle because I get a lot of joy out of delivering. And when I get into places where it's like, after a while, I feel like I'm just like talking to a wall. Why am I here? This is not a good use of my talent. Let me go and help someone who's serious about needing help. And so this kind of allows me to do that. And it also allows me to balance. Like, I'm a passionate person in both my professional life and my personal life. And so I'll get somewhere, Ben, and I'll be working like 80 hours a week and not even like realizing it. And they'll be like, when's the last time you ate? And I'm like, I don't know. We got to get this done. When I do things like this, it's like, you're capped at 50 hours. We're not paying you any more than this. So I just say, okay, yeah, you're right. Right. Or I'll go 4 years without taking a vacation. Like, this has provided me the balance that I haven't always had. And I think,
you were all in. You were like, I'm pressing the gas and I'm getting to that thing.
Right. I'm like, let's fix it. Let's do all the things. Right.
And then this, they're like, well, we can't.
Right. And
you're not obligated to do all that.
And I always own it. I'm not saying I don't care.
No, that's the difference.
But it's
a big difference.
It doesn't feel like it's breaking my heart when things don't move forward, being, an interim person and helping. And so right now, like, I really enjoy senior finance leaders, senior revenue cycle leaders. You got projects, you have like gaps in your, maybe you have an ineffective leader, or I come in and you don't have to feel desperate to hire the next person. I'll patch it together. I'll hold you until you get to your next person. And sometimes, when you do that, they're like, are you sure you don't want to stay? Like, I used to have a lot of the staff at one place, like, can't you just move here? And I'm like, I'm not your person. But guess what? You're going to find your person, and it's going to be great. And they don't have to dig you out of a hole. There are people who are really good at maintaining. And then there are people that are good
100%.
at building. And you got to know which one you are. And there's some people that are good at both. But
it's the rare.
I just recognize, like, for myself, and that's not to say I won't ever go back into a health system again. I love it. But right now, I'm like, this is what I'm doing.
That's great. It reminds me, when I was consulting, I had this saying I had learned about myself, which you have come to a similar conclusion.
Yeah.
I tell people, I'm like, I'm really good in the first 6 months. And then they always be like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like,
then what happens after 6 months?
Because what I find happens is I become part of the organization in some way.
That's the bureaucracy.
And I said, but for the first 6 months, I don't give a shit. And that's not my role. And I don't have any of the ties.
Yes.
So I learned this from early in my career. You're sparking a memory for me. I worked in surgery.
Yeah.
So I was in surgery.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult.
Yeah.
And our director of surgery retires, Mary Jane Prebe, who's amazing. Just this woman that held everything together, right? But surgeons at Bay, like, it's a hard job. It's actually a very, very hard job. There's only a job. Those VP of rev cycle and director of surgery are probably equally, in my mind, is like two of the hardest jobs in healthcare.
Okay.
Well, they could not find someone to play the role, right?
Yeah.
So they hired this interim. And so this woman, Dell, comes in. Her name's Dell, right? And
Should we be saying names?
Yeah, it's fine. She's
okay.
I haven't seen Dell in forever, but I love her.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot. And Dell's basically like kicking ass and taking names. Like, she doesn't care, right?
Yes, love it.
And so I remember sitting in Dell's office. Office wasn't her office, right? She's just like sitting in this thing, and the phone's ringing. We're talking, phone's ringing. I'm like, and I'm young, right? I'm like 26 years old or whatever. I go, don't you need to answer that? And she's like, that's not for me. I go, she's like, they're not calling me. I go, well, okay. I was just like, in my mind, they're calling somebody. She's like, they're not calling me.
Who are they calling?
Who knows?
Oh, okay.
She never answers.
Okay.
Because she's basically like,
either.
Well, the thing is, it's like the same thing. But she's like, my role is to get this in order.
Yes. Yes.
And they're not calling me. It's probably some BS that I don't need to be dealing with.
Yeah.
Or some politics. She's like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it was like mind blown, right? Because I had never seen anything like it, right? I'd never seen anyone come in and kind of be like, this is the role. And all my role is to like shift the culture here, get us in line, execute on things so that when the next person comes, just like you said,
and she setting was the interim.
Yeah, she had no staying. It was like, I'm not staying.
Yes.
You can't pay me enough money.
There is a freedom to that.
The people hated her.
Oh, well, I'm
pretty
sure people hated me
too. But
get
this.
Yeah.
People just by
then
like
they
yours.
love you.
I left. It was my time. I had left. I actually joined Accretive at the very beginning, so that way I left there to go to Accretive. She was there a year, longer than she typically was.
Yes,
at
that's
the
how
end
it
of the
goes.
year, people were crying that she was there.
That's how it is.
Because they were like, she brought sanity to a world in which it was insane.
Yes.
But it upset the apple cart. And so I think that's what's hard.
Yeah.
Most people who are staying in the job for a long time, they got the permanent job.
Right.
They don't want to do that.
Right. Well, because to be fair to those people, you do have to build relationships. Like, it's just a different
thing.
way of working. And what's funny for me is that, like, I've always been this person trying to fit in this long-term box. And, depending on where I am, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm like, if we're no longer making the decisions that are best for the organization or best for the patient, because Dr. So-and-so, like, what am I trying to say? Like, my moral compass just doesn't sit right with that. And there have been times where I have told a senior leader, well, you put your name on that, but I'm not putting my name on that, because everybody needs to remember why we're here. It's not personal. If there's no hospital, then none of this matters, right? And to me, like, that's my role. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I always say I am a tough leader. But when I leave places, a lot of times, one woman, she said it best. She said, Parson, she said, you were tough, but you were what we needed, right? And I didn't know why they were crying. This was the first time it happened. And I'm like Ice Queen. So it's very like when people start crying, I'm like, whoa,
disarming.
What's happening? There's liquid coming from your eyes.
Are those emotions?
Right. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But after like the third or fourth time, I was like, okay, you need to understand, right? Because I think, Ben, everybody really just wants to do a good job. But do they have the tools?
Oh, yeah.
Do they have the leader?
Most people are trying to do the right thing. Yeah.
And then you get in these places and you empower people and you let them see what's possible. They're like, I had no idea. And then they feel like they're part of a team and then they're moving in the right direction. I love that. Like, I get high off of that.
Yeah. Also, I think like there's a lot of people that they're not in the right seat potentially, right? Like they get put to this spot or there's wrongs. Or no one's really spent any time with them. You know what places you've been in, I'm sure I've been in,
yes,
that you step into and like, oh, we've never seen the CEO.
Oh,
you know what times like, or CFO? Oh, we don't know who that is. We know who it is. We've never seen him. I'm like, you've never seen them?
They said they don't even know who the VP of revenue cycle is. And that person was there for like 20 years. I'm like, what? How does that happen?
How does that happen?
But that's another important thing is to be visible, to be present, for your people to know you, for you to feel accessible, right? And it's not enough to say, I have open up door, right? It's about going, Lean Six Sigma, going to the Gemba, being out there. Being someone that they can like talk to. And I love it, like every level. I might go over to a coder and be like, oh, talk to me about this diagnosis code. And they all need to be prepared, right? Like it's not a big deal. You don't have to be nervous because Parson is here. I always fall back on I haven't been in revenue cycle forever, so please educate me. And I mean, that's a genuine thing for me to say.
Right, because you're not doing it every day.
Right, kind of like disarming me where it's like, or disarming them where it's like, you don't have to be on your best behavior. In fact, I'd rather you make a mistake and own it because guess what? We're not the ones performing heart surgery. That's better than to try to hide what's going on because we're never going to fix it. We're never going to get to the root of what we need to in order to make change.
Right. So, switching gears a little bit.
Yes.
I'd love to hear from you, like, what gets you fired up about in rev cycle? Like, when you make a comment on something or you're like, you see something, you're like, oh, this again.
You know what? I am fascinated by how many people. Sometimes I'm like, is this just like weaponized incompetence? Like really smart people.
Good phrase.
I'm like, is it really that hard to understand that? Like what you pay is not what's charged. Or even like the concept of like deductible and like how no one just understands their health insurance. It's just like, oh, I just picked this and it just got put on me. And a lot of people I think are intentionally manipulative online when they're talking about healthcare systems, how much they might charge, how much something was. And I'm like, it's not helpful to the conversation. And what's weird to me about it, Ben, so I'm not really on social media other than LinkedIn, which when I joined, it was not social media. It was a professional networking site. And like 5 of my jobs
totally
I got.
Changed.
It's totally changed. And I have to like resist the urge to fall into it. But this idea, I'm like, did it become like TikTok or YouTube where like the more engagement you get, the more money? I was like, why are people doing this? It's like they intentionally put out falsehoods to gain responses and attention. And I don't think it's helpful, right? Like at the end of the day, we need to find a way to help educate patients and obviously the general public. Because you got like Mark Cuban out there now making comments. And I'm like, sir, I'm sure you're very successful in what it is that you're doing. Actually, I know that you are, but some of the stuff that you say, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, have a conversation with someone who's been in the room so that you can be educated. And again, I love opinions, right? But like, have informed ones. And I'm even willing to admit where I'm like, you know what? I missed the mark there. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But healthcare is so complex that I don't think we do ourselves any favor when we have people who are intentionally putting out things that aren't helping the narrative. We need to get it to a place where it's less complex, right? And I could probably talk forever about this, but I won't. That even gets into kind of like the government and how things are structured so that people can just feel like they're getting the value out of what it is that they're paying for. And it doesn't have to take someone like you and me to be, sometimes I don't even understand my own explanation of benefits. And I'm like, this is my field. So why is it that complex? That kind of, because at the core of it, Ben, to me, it's about like the patient. They don't understand what's going on. And what more can we do to change that? And I just don't have those answers. So that gets me kind of fired up.
Well, it's fantastic. There's like probably 4 things in all of that. There's not just one.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing about people who don't know and like this, I don't know, and now I'm it's like, because I think it's easy. It's easy to say. It's easy to say like healthcare's broken, and it's like, okay, yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious.
Right.
It's much harder to come up with like the way that you actually do something. Mm-hmm. I also think like most people just don't. I think that probably the biggest problem is like you don't care about your healthcare until like something happens.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, why am I paying this or what? And I think we've done the disservice to ourselves. This is my big thing. I think the most damning things that we did way back in the day. I don't know if you're familiar, but I did this like history of healthcare insurance.
Yes, I watched that.
Okay, so
really
you know a little bit.
Yeah.
The most damning thing we did was we mixed this thing called insurance.
Yes.
And we mixed the two things that were uninsurable. One is somewhat, which is an event that happens. I got in a car accident or...
The catastrophic,
The actual event, I need a surgery. Okay. Yeah. Those are things that like we know and we can predict to a degree, like what happens and that you actually need to go to the hospital or you don't. But the health piece that we insure is still uninsurable because there's no way to determine it. Mm-hmm. So... to me, it's like, well, we've mixed this and now we've made it something that I expect. I expect my health insurance to cover everything.
Oh, yeah. We're super entitled in this country.
So it's the entitlement of like, well, no, I thought it paid for it. And how come this is costing me? And then, so I don't think people want to know because ultimately they just expect it to like, oh, well, I expected it to pay. And for a long time, and I could blame hospitals on itself, is like, we didn't ask. So it's like, shit, like you went in, nobody asked me, or now maybe they did ask me, but I said no. And then I went in again and nobody asked me about the old balance or even the new balance, right? So it's like, I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it's like, we did it over time. Mm-hmm. And so the expectation there is then like, well, I can go in this enigma of a hospital and it's not a person. It's like this weird thing. And they still treat me and I get to leave.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think we've created this system in which was like, they don't actually own it. So I think we've done that. But ultimately, like, the employers are the ones that actually need to act.
Yeah.
Because I talked about this earlier with Noel. And I did this, I don't know if you know who Chris Deacon is, but...
I do recognize that name.
She wrote the book, The American Healthcare Heist.
Okay.
She posts on LinkedIn all the time.
Oh.
I had her on the podcast like a month ago. It's not out yet.
That out.
It's amazing. Not out yet. It's amazing.
Okay.
Chris is awesome. I can't believe she came on the podcast. It's amazing. She's going to come to my event in May in person because she lives in London. She's coming in person.
Wow.
We're going to do a part 2 to the history of health insurance and do like what we think should happen.
Wait, you're going to be in London?
No, she lives in London, but she's coming to the U.S. Okay. So I'm like, perfect. In May. It's going to be awesome.
Nice.
But basically, like, her and I have been talking about this thing where it's like, the biggest thing is the courts have found and refused to make the insurer the fiduciary responsible.
Why? Why will they not do it?
Because it opens up this whole can of worms. Mm. And so the employers are still the fiduciary responsibility because in the ERISA basically says you have to, like, the person that would make the determination and make the most amount of determinations is like even though they're really farming that to the
third party, yes.
And they actually don't have a lot of information.
Right.
But employees if they want to sue someone because they think something's not happening right, who do they get to sue?
The hospital.
The employer.
Oh, the employer? Really? I didn't know that.
So if they think they're not, they can't sue the insurer, they're suing, not for medical care, like issues, but like actual, like, hey, you're not giving us the right benefits and like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Can you believe this?
Wow.
So there's a whole thing around that because ultimately now the employers are in this spot where it's like, so let me get this straight. 78%, almost 80%, which is probably 80% of all large employers, over 100 people. Mm-hmm. Are self-insured. They are paying it. They're just using a third party to be the TPA.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. And my thing is like, healthcare is like this. so bear with me for a second. You react. You react. I've got this. We have this little lake house up in northern Michigan.
Okay.
And it overlooks a little island. It's awesome.
Okay.
We have a bald eagle that had a baby, and bald eagle is on the island, right?
Okay.
It's incredible. So you can watch out bald eagles coming around. And all day long, the bald eagle is getting attacked by these little birds by the size of your hand. Just all day. Mm-hmm. And it's huge, right? The size of this table. You know, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Or she doesn't care. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But it's annoying. They're just taking their pound of flesh because the little birds are, I don't know, for some reason they don't, I don't know if the eagle's trying to eat them. Who knows?
That's probably how they're playing.
Maybe. Doesn't feel like. But I liken it to the healthcare system where everybody's taking their little cut.
Oh, yeah.
And they're taking their little margin.
Yeah.
And everybody's taking a margin.
Yeah.
And so if I think about like, well, the insurance company, they're taking a margin. Mm-hmm. The insurance broker, and I'm not blaming the brokers here, but the insurance broker, they're taking a margin.
Yep.
So then we're taking a margin, like the health systems. The providers are taking a margin. PBMs are taking their own little margin.
All the companies that
and then
Chris
Deacon's point is, if you start circling it, insurers have bought up all the little things, so they're taking margin and making pricing work in their favor so that it's actually they want healthcare more expensive.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Because if it's more expensive, I'm taking a bigger check. And now I'm this big bank and I've got all this, I'm just holding it as long as possible.
Yeah.
So that's why I like in the healthcare system, like everyone's taking their little piece. Mm-hmm. And what we have to start doing is stripping away all the BS, which we put in place to reduce cost.
Right. But it's only increased cost.
It's only increased it. The largest company in healthcare in the world does not make anything.
Yeah.
It is United.
Yeah.
That would not have existed.
Our favorite.
60 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like mind blowing.
I've been saying they need the Ma Bell treatment. Like I can't.
Yes.
And someone said to me once, they said, well, if all of this got fixed, then you would be out of a job. And I said, you know what? I'm okay with that. If someone told me if the trade-off was a far less complex system,
I'll go
I don't
find
need to
something
exist.
else.
Like my role does not need to exist. But as it stands in today's 2026 America, roles like this have to exist because of the complexity and because of all the things that you just
mentioned. It just broke it all up. Chris used an example back in the day, like it was one of like a Rockefeller or somebody like that.
Oh yeah,
that
around the 20s.
Yes, like
I love that period in history.
All the railroads.
Yeah.
Because they didn't necessarily want the railroads; they wanted to control the production and the way that that everything had to go through them.
Yeah.
The government actually stepped in and it's like something like 40, they had to break it into 47 different companies.
I think that was Roosevelt that did that.
It was like, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. And today we're making it into like, no, they're just going for the shareholders. And I'm like,
Which the shareholders, I don't even know how much power they have.
They don't have any, really.
Right.
Because it's not enough, like, combined.
Yeah.
It's just you got me on a topic, but it's fascinating. I'm like,
sorry, you're geeking out here, right?
Sorry, that was my bad. No, I'd be curious to know like your reaction to some of that. I was just like, what do you think?
I don't know. I actually do worry about it when people talk about what are things that keep you up at night. At this point, not very much, just because I'm not sitting in the seat. But I do think about, especially after last year with like the government shutdown and the things that we saw and me not even knowing that there was a such thing as an enhanced subsidy, because people were just saying the subsidy. And I was like, wait a minute, the subsidy for the subsidy? I said, what are we doing? I knew it was bad.
Subsidy for
the subsidy for the subsidy. Like, that's what we're talking about here. So it's not even like accurate to just say Obamacare subsidy. It was like the COVID subsidy for the Obamacare subsidy. I just said, man, I was thinking, I was like, do we blow it up and start over, or do we just try to fix? Like, it is so bad. And to your point, everyone is taking their piece and their chunk. I mean, even just like, I just sat down with someone who's like, oh yeah, I'm with an AI company. I'm like, you know what? Everybody is with an AI company now. There's money in this. In revenue cycle alone, there's so much money. And so like, look, I'm a capitalist like anyone else, but there is a limit. And for me, the limit is it going against the greater good of the people? And this is what you're talking about when you're talking about what happened in the 20s with the railroads. And again, I do believe it was Roosevelt who came in and basically busted up all of these monopolies. But he said, and the inequity and wealth back then was even greater than it is today, right? Like those titans.
Yeah, they made everything.
Watch like the History Channel,
they
and
made
I
everything.
love it, right? Like they were making like multi-million dollars then, which probably would be close, adjusted for inflation, to trillions. And then you had people who were like working with, 70 hours a week. Children were working, getting limbs cut off, $5 a week. Like it was insanity. I think, what do they say? History repeats itself. I think that we are back at that point where it's going to take almost some sort of, I'm not big on this, but I don't know how else to say it, like a government intervention to be like, enough. But where do you start, though? Because even with the Change Healthcare deal, when the government tried to go after that, some judge said, no, it's fine. And then 6 months later, what do we get?
They don't
know.
The
rift that like we all know about, but the rest of the country was like, huh? So I just, there's so much special interest. And I do think about it because I'm like, there is going to be a bubble. We've had multiple bubbles. I don't know how old you are. Probably we're around the same age. We had the housing bubble, right? We had the tech bubble. There have been so many bubbles. Healthcare is going to have a bubble. And I don't know what it's going to look like, but it concerns me.
Well, the most concerning thing, I know this is boring, so it's a nerd thing, but
not boring to me.
I watched the C-SPAN testimony that Mark Cuban was in.
Oh, I listened to C-SPAN testimony, so hey, we're on the same place. Yes.
The most egregious thing was actually listening to a senator or somebody who was over the committee, who was a CEO at HCA for a period of time.
Okay.
Who still didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
I mean, are we surprised?
I'm not surprised, but the problem is like, it's just so obvious. Like, oh, you don't actually understand the system at all and you used to be in healthcare in some form or fashion. So, okay, that's a problem. And then it's like when you're talking about like the shutdown, it's like, remember they were like, Trump was like, oh, we're gonna give money to the people. We're gonna subsidize, just cash to the people.
Give it to them directly.
Are you out of your damn mind? Like, what are we talking about? That's insane.
Well, but
because they don't pay.
Well, but remember though, something that I learned is, again, I was getting all this education during the government shutdown, is that the actual companies that are getting the money, it's almost like, what do we do with like ACOs? They're getting the money anyway. So like there's no incentive for them to try to like reduce costs or any of this, because it's like, oh, these people enrolled, here's your pot of money. I didn't know that.
Yes.
And I heard some senators saying, why would we continue to incentivize? I don't know. I hope there's another like gang of 3, gang of 6. You know how they do these gangs and they come together and work on something? They have to do something about this. I don't know.
These gangs, they come together.
That's what they call them. You haven't heard that?
Yes, I heard it. It's funny.
Yeah.
I like it. Something. I don't know.
Somebody. I mean, because it's bad and it's only going to get worse. I mean, you would have thought after what happened to the United Healthcare CEO that like, I don't know, somebody would have been like, why is half the country celebrating this? Like, not, but I even learned from that. I said, I didn't realize the average person even really knew that it was broken and that they knew that there were issues with prior auths. Like, that gave me an education that, oh, regular people know something's wrong.
It's like
and
a
that's
symbol
why they're
for
like,
corporate greed.
Exactly.
I tell my kids not to be like, put him as a hero.
Yeah.
They're teenagers, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, he's whatever his name is.
Well, because he looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch model, and you got all that going on. And he's
they were like making
this
guy into some kind of like cult hero,
like
and I was
Robin
like,
Hood
whoa,
or
like he's a bad dude. That guy didn't do anything. He's just an assistant that sucks.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But I was shocked by the actual response, like you were.
So many people.
That it was going to be that, and it was like, oh, people are like kind of boiling to an edge.
That's what I'm saying. They're plugged in, so that's why this bubble that I fear is coming. Someone has to do something about it. I don't know. I'm not in office, so I can't do anything. But
see, this is why I don't. I know what you're saying. I don't think the government's actually going to do something.
Who though?
I think that's why I say the employers actually need to do something. Otherwise, they're going to be in the same spot they were in 5 years, except it's going to be 40% more than it is today. They have to start doing something.
But who's the leader that's going to do it? Most places I go, people are not courageous enough to do the difficult things.
I don't know. I got a feeling.
Or even a state. Like, you could have like one state just kind of say, we're going to try to do this here. And if it works, then everybody else should kind of like look at us as a model or a pilot. Someone. We're not in charge, Ben.
I don't know. I don't know who's. I feel like there's going to be some employers that are going to be like, we got to fix this.
Yeah.
We got to do something. Because I gave that stat in the talk. Is like, it was like $5,000 a person, like, for inflation adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
In what was it, 1987 or 1990? 1990.
Okay.
Inflation adjusted, right, to today's dollars.
Yeah.
Today it's $25,000 an employee for health coverage.
Wow.
That's 5x. So I've adjusted. I've made those equal.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Think about just like, I'm not paying them.
Right.
5x more, right?
Yeah.
So that's all come out of somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that that's not sustainable, but we've kept going for this long, so I don't know. Maybe it is sustainable.
Maybe like the Chamber of Commerce, or I feel like it's very hard for people to independently, unless they're one of these like innovative, outside the box. Like, even, I'm not a fan of Mark Cuban, but I do think he's that kind of person where they're like, you know what, I'm going to try to do something different.
Because he's attacking PBMs, which are maybe the worst.
Yeah.
Maybe the worst offenders of this whole thing in a small niche area, and he's going after it. But at least
he's willing to try. That's what I'm saying. I don't feel like there's enough people.
No, that is 100%.
That are willing to try.
No, that's right.
And what are the limitations? Is it money? Is it power? Is it, I don't know.
Well, there's all those forces against you because there's so many people that benefit from the current system as it is.
Yeah.
And so that starts to like hit people in their pocketbooks.
Right.
And people who probably already have money. So it's not even people who are poor people. We're talking about people who have money.
Right, but they don't like to lose their money.
They don't like to lose.
Even little amounts. I've been. They
don't like to lose.
Yeah.
Which is also, I have a friend who's a broker, and he said, a health insurance broker, and their firm does more stuff for a bunch of employers.
Yeah.
And he said he's trying to do something different. He loves the stuff I'm doing. He's like, I want to do something. I'm trying to convince someone to do something different. He goes, and I have a very hard time to convince employers to do something different because they're like, well, once my CEO gets something different, then I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll just go to the Blue Cross and see what they're going to do this year.
Yeah.
He's like, what? Like, guys, this is unsustainable. You are spending this much. He's trying to like, so even those guys are like risk averse, right?
Well, because most of the people who are even in those positions, they don't really know. Like, one of my I'm a very proactive person. Like, I'm looking 6 months out, 12 months out. And oftentimes I'm seeing the way things are moving. And I'm like, we need to get in position to be prepared for this. Like, that even happened with me at Steward. But I have learned that most people in those roles would rather be reactive. And it's like, okay, so we have to have this happen for then you to like run around like chickens with your head cut off. Like, when I told you that this was coming and we should prepare and you got to stack up all these things, like most of them would rather, I don't know, almost like lose the money to be like, oh, well, you did say this, but it's here now, go and fix it. And I check out because I'm like, if I told you that we need to be prepared for this because I can see how the wind is shifting and you're just like, whatever, Parson, you don't know everything. I never said I know everything. I said, I'm telling you, I see this moving. We should be, because I'm a plan A, B, C, D person. Now that it's all falling apart, you want me to save you? I'm out. No, you save yourself. And I don't think most of them would rather have it get so bad that they don't have another option, as opposed to, hey, why don't we right now start to think of things? It's just a different way of thinking, I think. But when problems are so complex, like, break it up into small chunks.
Oh, it's so true. But it's also like, what's fascinating is like my last forum I did,
Mm-hmm.
I thought what we get, maybe it was in the spring, but it was like, I thought what we'd see at the time is like, man, I thought, is everyone going to come in just like, everyone's cutting costs? Because that's what I kept hearing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's fascinating is about half my group is like, yeah, we have to take like 10 to 20% out, like $400 million.
Yeah.
The other half was like, we're having our best quarter we've ever had.
It's weird. I've seen that. Yeah.
And she goes, and I finally started to figure out, like, the groups that were talking about just having, like, record quarters had done a bunch of work in 21, 22, 23.
Yes. Prepared themselves.
They did. They cut everything. They kind of changed their infrastructure, weren't budgeting, like, not pre, like, some of these CFOs just budgeted pre-COVID numbers. Like,
Why
what are you
were they doing that?
Yeah, okay,
a lot of them were doing that, yes.
That world's gone.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to kind of see these, like, places that were, like, very proactive. And because it wasn't just like, oh, they're all in good neighborhoods. Like, that's not what I'm talking about.
No.
They were all over the place, from academic medical in a bad area to, like, it didn't matter. Like, so I was shocked by that, to be honest. That blew my mind.
Well, the results, I mean, it showed themselves based on what you're saying. When you're proactive, you don't have to live in this state of constant, like, panic.
But most CFOs, the only way you get fired is you make a mistake, or you don't get fired for not doing much.
Well, I don't know. That's how I feel about COOs. Like, I told a CFO once, I said, you know why you and me are usually the first ones to be let go? I said, because there are numbers tied to our job.
That's true.
I said, and you can have, like, a crappy COO being there forever. Because he's trying to convince me this one COO, like, she's fantastic. I said, you know what? If I go and I set a house on fire and then I run around the corner as the fire department to get the fire put out, should I be celebrated for that when I'm really, like, my actions or inaction is the reason why something is on fire?
But you call it the fire department.
Well, because you are the fire department, right? You set the fire, then you ran around the corner and brought the truck to set. Like, no, that's not good leadership. That's just someone.
You see that all the time.
Yes.
But they don't have numbers, like you said. It's not the same.
They don't know numbers, and it's just like, whoa. So yeah, I haven't always made friends along the way.
I like it.
Because
Well, Parson, we're out of time. It's been awesome. Thanks for joining. I'm so glad we got to talk and nerd out for a while.
I know. And finally meet each other in person. You look just like your photo. That doesn't always happen.
That's great. I hope that's a good thing. I hope that's a nice thing.
It is. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. It was so great.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do it again.
All right.
Thanks.